Hello, I'm Arun Malhotra and we're back with ETAuto Unplugged Season 3. ETAuto Unplugged, the program where we focus on different diverse facets of the auto industry. We get industry leaders to discuss, detail, share the roadmap, the challenges, the opportunities. One of the segments which has caught a lot of attention of everybody has been in two-wheelers, electric vehicles, because EV is something which is being talked about and the harbinger for change has to be EV in two-wheelers. That's a topic of today. And for discussing this topic, I'm talking to a person who's been part of this journey for the last 1 decade. And he knows it, he's gone through the trials, tribulations, traumas, if there are any. And he's the person who would shed light how the journey has been, where we stand today, and what is the road ahead. And I'm talking of nobody else than Mr. Phokela, Chief Business Officer, Ather Energy. Welcome, Ravneet.
Thanks, Arun.
So, Ravneet, before we get down to the electric vehicle journey, we want to know about your journey. Right from school time to now, before you joined Ather, how's it been?
So, I'm a Delhi boy. Good to be back in Delhi today again.
Ajay.
So, I began my journey after my business school in advertising. I used to be in Lentas, changed my name many times after that, but I was there for about 7 years.
Okay.
At a certain point, I thought that this is getting a little limiting. I fundamentally come from the world of consumers and brands.
And what are the accounts you're handling in Lintas?
Curiously, Maruti, where you were my client, so I'm glad you got that in. So it was a good 7 years there. And I realized at a certain point in time, it was getting a bit constraining. I wanted to be a part of marketing in a bigger sense, not just communication. And that's when I crossed over. I joined Whirlpool in Delhi. I was there for about 3 years, after which I took a punt. I'll tell you why it was a punt. In hindsight, doesn't look like that. I joined Nokia. And the reason it was a punt was because at that point in time, the industry was largely grey market. While Nokia was a very large global brand already, but India was very small organizations. I was employee number 19, so very small organization. Difficult to think of Nokia in that sense, at that stage. But I was there for, so I joined here. Excuse me. I was there for 1.5 years, and whilst I was there, the industry just exploded. From a few thousand units a month we used to sell, we were selling more than 1 million. Because tariff structures changed, the market sort of changed, and the entire market shifted. In that phase, after about 1.5 years there, I got a chance to move to the Nokia global team in London. I was there for about 8 years, doing a variety of things across product management, category strategy, communication, a bunch of things. So a few years back, 2012, I moved back to India with American Express, but a very small part of Amex. It's a company called Payback. It's a German company that Amex acquired globally. So it was run largely by German expats. So I was part of the transition strategy of getting local sort of talent in. So I moved to Bangalore with Payback. I was there for a short while. A quick jump to Flipkart for about 6 months. And then I've been at Ather since 2015 now. So essentially coming from that world.
So, I'm seeing the journey from Lintas to Nokia to your American Express to Flipkart and then to Ather, and Ather you've been at 10 years. So it's a complete, and what one hears nowadays is that people who reach the top, and that's one thing with management schools talk of, they handle different verticals, different industries, different geographies. That's why they reach the top. So you're a prime example of that. And something like Qiyamah se Qiyamah tak, I would call it, what all you moved in.
Abhi Qiyamah nahi aayi hai, but theek hai.
When I say Qiyamah, it's just the variety and the complexity.
I get it.
I'm not referring to the old movie of Qiyamah se Qiyamah tak, which had a very sad ending. Now coming to your journey, I mean, 2015 a year where EV was still a very, there were a number of companies who were in EV, but it's not the, from a recognized solid company to making the leap of faith and joining Ather at that time. Where was the industry at that time? And I just want to understand how it has progressed. 2015, take yourself back to that year.
I think that industry that was there in 2015, you won't recognize it today. That industry largely at that point in time was a lot of Chinese imports. So it was import, badge, rebadge, sell, with not a lot of focus on after sales, not a lot of focus on quality, not a lot of focus on solving for basic building blocks of business like consumer finance and all that. But while I say that, it's also important to understand the context there. The context there was the cost structures were where they were. People were still nervous about pricing. So instead of looking at what is the right product for a consumer, they work backward from what price should I start at.
Okay.
So if you start at a certain price and the cost structures are where they are, you only get a certain kind of product. And I think the fundamental mistake that was made is that, which is the myth that we have seen across many industries in India, is that people assume sasta bechoge to zyada bikega. No, consumer needs value, right? So, so what happened there was that it was a proliferation of a lot of brands. Most brands are dead today. Funnily, this is very similar to my experience in phones, mobile phones.
Okay.
If you remember about 15, 18 years back, there were 500 brands of phones in India. I think if there were 500, 499 are dead today. Because the model was the same. You show up in Shenzhen in China, you pick up a price point, pick up a product, get it here, sell it here, distribution है तो बेच दिया, नहीं चला तो बंद कर दिया. Because they were largely distributors who became, and OEM is a different mindset, different skill set, right? So from there on is when we also started building. Honestly, if you saw the industry that time.
But the government had a FAME policy that time. FAME 1 was there.
FAME was there.
Which was for incentivizing purchase of vehicles to some extent.
So FAME has been there for a while in different forms. The subsidy has been coming down over a period of time. But see, you can subsidize a price for a consumer. Fundamentally, the product has to work. Like subsidizing something which is substandard. Has never sold.
Substandard doesn't work.
Never sells, right? So I think the big changes I've seen is that, so we launched 2018. I think the first startup with local R&D. So we took about 5 years before we launched the first product. We also try to redefine how two-wheelers are sold. Because we understood it's a premium product, we understood it's an upgrade, and therefore when you're looking at a premium product and an upgrade, it's not just a better product, it's the entire experience around it. So in terms of our experience centers, how we did retail, and the kind of tie-ups we had in consumer finance which didn't exist before that. We tried a leasing plan which was, I think, the first in the two-wheeler industry. Importantly, focus has been that for every one retail store you own, you also open a service center, so there's always one-to-one correlation. So essentially just building the basics right. And we went to a journey about 2-3 years, but there have been a few blips in the
what have been the inflection points in the industry from
the
external perspective?
So I think the first one was when the legacy players came in, right? Which our hypothesis always was that, it takes many players to grow a category and grow an industry. One player can't do it.
But there were already hundreds of players.
Credible players. Okay, let me rephrase that. Right?
Credible players.
Credible players with credible products, right? Okay. So we always believe that our next inflection would be, or the first inflection would be, when legacy players come in, okay, because they bring credibility, they bring good product, they bring trust in the market. Oh. So for a consumer saying, "Arey Bajaj aa gaya, TVS aa gaya, Hero aa gaya," to badhiya hi hoga.
Okay, so they make the industry
for sure
to grow and also to create credibility. You said
absolutely. Otherwise, otherwise it would have been only on us, and that's a tough journey. So that's happened on the external side. So credible brands came in, credible products came in. Slowly the not so great products got weaned out for a variety of reasons, and therefore the market started consolidating.
But there were phenomenal incentives given 5-6 years back on demand incentives.
There was a time.
The central government, there was a FAME benefit which was something like 50,000 as scooter.
60,000.
60,000 as scooter. Then you had state government giving road tax waiver and some incentive also for this thing. So that gave the push, you think, or that really served the purpose?
It did. See, there is no nation that has electrified without government support.
Okay.
Because at a certain stage, when you want to drive the business, you have to understand A, cost structures, B, also understand the stage of the journey of the industry is in. Cost structure rationalize over a period of time, but when you begin, unless you have some altruistic reason to sell EVs, which no corporate does, you have to have some support to make yourself viable. And I think the right thing government did was they kept tapering the subsidies down as cost structures became better and better. Today we are at a stage where we don't need the subsidy on demand side.
So you don't need subsidy.
No, so listen, we have 5,000 rupees now, which we know is going to go off in.
But there is a subsidy of GST which is still
That's there. I'm saying different. So there is still a requirement to have some kind of arbitrage, GST arbitrage, which is what we have.
Okay.
But see, there are three elements. So there is a PLI, there is a FAME subsidy, and there is a GST arbitrage. I think exists and should exist, and maybe you can talk about it later. Direct incentive of FAME, I think, is fine. We'll manage. I think we've been anticipating this, and we built. All of us have built this into our plans.
It's hardly anything now.
5,000 rupees.
It's neither here nor there.
Yeah, so it doesn't change fundamentally anybody's decision to either buy a product or a certain kind of brand. Third is a PLI. PLI has been a mixed bag. The PLI scheme was interesting because when it was only one window to apply, and I think there the criteria was either you need to have 10,000 crore revenue, which even today nobody has, or you have to have zero revenue. So if you're selling anything at all, there was no PLI. So we were selling, so we didn't qualify.
Very interesting. And I don't know, we don't want to discuss that point, but the PLI, you can say the outflow of under various, because PLI has been introduced in various industries. Somehow auto has been lagging far behind in the PLI thing in terms of outflow. So that's the
Right.
real judgment. You have so much budget, so out of 25,000 crores, how much you have given to it. Now coming to, you talked of the legacy players coming in and giving some value to the brands. And I don't know of any industry, I mean, at least in the auto eco space, where the market leaders 5 years back don't exist. No name mentioned, a leader which had 50% plus market share is struggling to be at 12% market share. Why this sudden, so much flux? Whereas in auto industry, it's really stable, solid, it's a long-term race.
It's actually depends on what stage of journey do you evaluate this at.
Okay.
At an early stage, where brands are describing their value propositions, consumers are responding to those value propositions. So you just don't know what's landing where. Also, legacy players, when they first entered, it was a very guarded entry till they decided to commit maybe a couple of years ago. So you can't judge a market unless you know all the inputs that had to be there are already there. So there was flux now. I think we are getting to a stage of consolidation. We already have, I think the top 4 players are about 80% of the market.
So it's becoming a more mature industry.
It is, I mean,
But even within the mature industry, the market share shifts are phenomenal.
but if you look at market share shifts on a relative basis, the volatility you see now is not as much as you saw earlier.
Okay, so volatility is getting down.
It is not, because eventually you see, I mean, things are landing in the market now. People understand TVS kya hai, Bajaj kya hai, Hero kya hai, Ather kya hai, Ola kya hai, and they're making their choices, right?
Okay, so it's a more mature industry and each brand
It's
has
maturing,
created-
it's maturing,
It's a
yes.
more industry. Now coming to, I'm taking some R's, which I think are relevant for if your product has to become mass-based. I mean, two-wheeler is a big market. We are talking of, it's a market of 20 million in domestic, which is there, which hopefully we should do this year. So it's a large market. So the pie which you can capture is much more.
Right.
And government is keen, and fortunately in two-wheelers there are no alternative technologies available. Like cars, you have talk of hybrid, you talk of CNG, you talk of various things. So there is basically either you are in petrol or you come to EV, which is there. Now, 5 R's you're saying, can we say, and this is not for your company, do we have products of the right quality now?
I think we've crossed the threshold. Do we have enough portfolio? No. I think we should have a much wider portfolio as we have in ICE.
But right quality is there.
Quality is there, and I think that the threshold level of product assortment also is there.
Okay.
We've crossed the threshold.
So you got the right quality and the right threshold which is arranged. It could become bigger.
Good enough.
Good enough.
Just good enough to sort. It's no longer a big problem.
Okay. So on a scale of 1 to 10, we are on journey at 8, or where would we be in this journey?
On
this journey of the right product and the right range.
I think from a right quality perspective, I think we'll be 7 or 8.
7, 8,
Right,
okay.
yeah,
Now coming to right price. And right price will also include right financing.
Right.
Because financing is an integral part. Where are we on this journey?
I think pricing, we're in a good place. Right? There could be the last 5-7% of opportunity, but I think we're in a good place today. because fortunately for the industry, people have understood the concept of TCO really well now. And when we get these, when we get people at our retail stores, people typically understand कि एक साल में 15-18 हज़ार रुपए बच जाते हैं, right? And that's what they understand, which means that a 1 lakh product is like a 1 lakh 20 product, and after that is actually, you start making profit on that. So people get that. And now, going back to the point about pricing, product pricing now it cuts across. Say pricing, if you look at product assortment, there are two axes. So there is a price axis, and then there is a need state axis. So price may, I think there is good, and need state also as we get more products in with different addressing different consumer needs, each of the boxes starts getting populated. But today, I don't think pricing is a deterrent.
So pricing is not.
It's not. There may be some opportunity there, but it's not like, oh, today the big problem is pricing.
So price is not a trend.
I'll tell you why. There was a time, if you track the market, there was a time, maybe a few quarters back, there was a lot of discounting in the market. There were products being sold at 79K, 89K, 90K.
These are low speed ones? Or
these are credible brands with credible products, right? If pricing was the big driver of adoption, we should have seen the market grow double, 1.5x. Nothing happened, right? Consequently, ASPs have gone up. And when they've gone up, the market has not come, the market has still grown. So fundamentally, at that point in time, the hypothesis that pricing drives the market was incorrect.
And the incentives also dropped. The government.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then pricing is, both the things are moving. Those products.
I'm saying, if let's say you take incentive as a back-end thing where consumers are paying a certain price. So ASPs have, when they were low, the market didn't explode, and when the ASPs were gradually coming back up, the market is not right.
So that's one. Now coming to the two aspects which people always assumed was very important, where EV stood at a disadvantage, which is reach and range. And these are something key where my vehicle will get stranded on the road or we will get it charged. Where are we on this journey?
See, the range and charging anxiety.
Because both are combined.
I think as markets mature, this becomes less and less of a problem. Because in reality, and this is largely about scooters I'm talking about, a good scooter should give you range about 120, 110, 150 on road, real world range. ठीक है? चलो आप 100 ले लो आप, 100 की range है, ठीक है? And an average scooter rider does about 25 kilometers a day. That's 4 days of range. So you start on Monday, you're good till Thursday, Friday. You really have no reason to worry. And if you have to charge it, you can use a 3-pin plug and charge, right? But the fact is, as a marketer, perception is reality. If you believe you have a problem, then it's my problem to solve. Which is why we set up the charging infra that we do. Today we have India's biggest charging infrastructure, about 4,000 points and all that. But the point is, the questions we used to get asked in Bangalore 3 years, 4 years back, we don't get them asked today because people realize range is not a problem. But as you go to a smaller town, a new town, it's the same question. So it's a question of a journey. Other thing also is
charging time and charging availability.
See, most people do home charging.
So that's one thing.
If you can't do home charging, it's unlikely you're buying a scooter. It's unlikely at this point in time.
But in the multi-story buildings where people are staying.
So people have their.
So that's not that big exactly.
At some point it may become a deterrent. Today it's not a challenge.
On a national scale of 0 to 10, if you take the range criteria, where do we stand today?
It's difficult because I'm saying in mature markets, it's a less of an issue. In new markets, it's a question of education and experience, which is where the whole point of this social proof comes in. Social proof gets two things. It gets trust. कि पड़ोसी के पास है, चाचा के पास है, uncle के पास है, so ठीक है, problem नहीं है. And secondly, my uncle has it, my neighbor has it, and he's never been stranded. So maybe, I'm fearing a bit much and all that. So word of mouth is an important driver. And interestingly, and happily so, small towns are tighter knit. They have less immigrant population. So word of mouth travels faster.
Okay.
Which is why if you see the EV penetrations as a percentage, they are stronger in tier 2, tier 3 than they are in tier 1.
Okay.
Social proof.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
Tier 1s are bigger geographies, so absolute numbers are high. But on a percentage penetration basis, tier 2, tier 3 is getting really strong.
And then coming to this entire concept of reliability and resale value. Where does we stand? Because they say EV technology changes so dramatically, and if anybody's bought an EV, whichever brand he's bought, and look at the resale and you bought a conventional this thing, the prices differential is unbelievable. So where does will it mature? Because that doesn't Indians look at it as an asset. If your asset depreciates at such 100%. A pace, isn't it a concern area?
It is. See, the real price discovery has not happened in the market.
Sure.
But if you look at logically, EVs have less moving parts, they need less servicing.
It's okay.
Right? So when you come to resale value, if you, for a minute, if you block out the historical aspect of product that used to be there genuinely there was a problem, right? Looking at products of today, where do consumers have the biggest worry of resale? Is battery. अभी तो इतने की बैटरी है, if the battery runs out, what will I do? Actually, battery is let me just take a step back and I'll come back to resale. The fundamental thing about one of the big barriers of adoption is people's nervousness around the battery. How long will it last? How much will I have to pay to replace it? Is it safe? Will it catch fire? If I have to resell, then what will happen, etc., etc. So those things. And that also plays into the resale perception. That product is fine, but when I have to sell it, if the battery is almost depleted, who will buy my product? I think this is where, like for example, recognizing this, so we give an 8-year warranty on the battery. And importantly, the battery is linked to not the individual, but to the VIN number. So if you sell your product, the warranty carries.
And there's no maximum in terms of kilometers traveled?
8 years, 80,000.
Which is fair enough.
Actually, it's 8 years, 80,000 with a 70% guarantee. So if your battery falls to 69% capacity, it's replacement. So what it does is it gives you confidence on the resale side, right? And sorry, the last thing on this one is that we just introduced a buyback program. So after 3 years, it's 60%. After 4 years, it's 50%, assuming certain wear and tear. We don't expect people to come back and give the vehicles back, maybe a small percentage, but it builds confidence.
Now coming to, a lot of issues were there. I mean, people knew legacy players were coming. And if you look at government's projection, if you look at 8 years back, 2030 was to be 80% penetration. And this is ETAuto, not anybody, Tom, Dick and Harry quoting. Now we talk of 30% by 2030. And now we are still on 7%, 8%, whatever the percentage may be. So why this, you say you are talking of projection or passion or something to actual performance. The penetration is much, much slower. Or the government has got it wrong, or the task was unsurmountable, or you have to have a reality check. Where is it happening?
So I think
because what you talked of factors of reach, range, ideally most factors are taken care of. And there's large, you say, legacy players being there. But why there's still, it's a slow pace.
So two things, Arun. Firstly, I think we should look at...
and where did the government go wrong, or anybody went wrong, industry specialists?
No, I still believe that the end state will still be there. I think the journey, the trajectory we may have gotten wrong. Firstly, you have to look at two-wheelers as scooters and motorbikes. Scooters are not doing too bad at all. I think 18-19%, sometimes 20%.
That's good enough.
So if it's 20% penetration, 1 in 5 people are buying that, right? So the issue is on the motorcycle side.
Now, motorcycle is 2/3. You can't ignore that.
I understand. I'm saying today, purely from the point of view of penetration. Now, I would have been worried if there were many credible products in the market and not selling. Then you say, listen, did I get it wrong? But reality is, we are in motorbikes where we were in many ways in scooters about 7-8 years back. Where I remember these conversations earlier saying, why aren't people buying scooters? And my answer was, what's there to buy? If I give you 1 lakh rupees, what will you buy? Today, if I give you 1.5 lakh rupees to buy electric motorcycle, what will you buy? There's no option, right? So, I think right now the use case for scooters is very clear, which is why the market is going at a very healthy pace.
Penetration
right? What's not very clear at this point in time is that what segments will flip first in the motorbike segment. I think people have the hypothesis, we have a hypothesis. That's not very clear, and therefore, once that. And it's a matter of time. It's not like it kabhi hoga nahi wo, right?
But tell me, 7-8 years, scooters are there, and it's been growing 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. But motorcycles are just not there. I mean, is it a product problem that you cannot design a motorcycle with EV, or is it something the price value equation just cannot be right, or it's too fearful, or there's something?
See, it's not a product. It's not like you can't make an electric motorcycle.
At the right price and quality.
The point is that the expectation of the motorcycle buyer are different from an expectation of a scooter buyer. The scooter buyer, whether they articulate or not, are a little more utilitarian in their in the expectation from a product. Right? They want the glitz and the glamour, but a little more utilitarian. A motorcycle buyer typically either rides more or thinks that they ride more. Right? So their expectation from the battery size and therefore motor, etc., very different. And if you have to package that at a price point, today is very difficult to make that work. You could do that in high-end motorcycles, right, where there is very low price sensitivity, but those are small segments. Large segments are where? The commuter is the largest segment. In that segment, to build a good solid product, go back to what we said about scooters. You have to have a product which is similar or better than its petrol counterpart. And if you can't do that at a price that's palatable, there is no business.
Okay. So that's it. But is it unsurmountable or is it something?
No,
around the corner?
it's the same question we had in scooters many years back. Maybe it's a slightly longer journey, but no.
But the journey is still a very infancy stage. It's not still.
See, it's infancy stage also, but it is difficult to isolate whether it's a genuine technology problem or dynamics problem, or the fact that at this point in time, scooters is such an obvious opportunity. Everybody is just focusing there because see, whether you're a big company or a small company, you still need to focus. Right? So I think the opportunity is so large in scooters at this point in time. I think everybody's just geared there.
Okay. Now coming to, you talked of customers, especially tier 2 cities. If you to look at that, generally the impression was initially that people who either were upgrading or the techie crowd of Bangalore or somewhere in Hyderabad, they are the people who are buying EVs. Now what is the reality check at this point of time? Is it upgrader, techie crowd, or is it becoming, they still will be there, but is it becoming more mass?
It's both, I'll tell you why. Upgrader and what kind of crowd. So I think we are at an early majority stage. Early adopters have come and they've gone. Right? Maybe as you go to smaller towns, their early adopters might come in, but for the most part, we've gone past that techie stage where people may accept maybe buggy products or or make some compromises because they want to be the first to buy, which is the early adopter mentality. That's over. Now we are looking at a mainstream buyer. This is a buyer who would have bought a 125cc petrol scooter if they hadn't bought an EV. And if you were to, even anecdotally, go to a store and watch the people coming in, it'll break every myth in anybody's mind about who.
That's what I saw you also.
Completely.
It's not the typical one you expect.
No, bilkul nahi. And it's good for us because we are talking to a mainstream buyer now with mainstream concerns, right? But we are talking to upgrading mindset. And that's important.
So upgrading mindset is more important than upgrading in price point.
See, upgrading is a large cross-industry phenomenon. Every industry is premiumizing. Name one industry which is not premiumizing, right? Every industry. I'll give you a surrogate example in our business. If you assume 110 and 125cc scooters as a surrogate for premiumness, 125cc used to be 19% of the market about 5 years ago. As of last FI, not even this one, as of last FI, it is 47%. I can wager a bet, it's maybe 50+% now. Now, if something is selling at 50, 51%, you can't say it's niche. It is not premium. It is the segment. And the other segment is declining. So this is happening all across. Premiumization is happening in cars, in motorbikes, everywhere, right? Second is that if you look at the context of, from a consumer perspective, about 70% of middle class households at a household level own a scooter. And scooter ownership is multiple, 2, 3, 4. Name one category where when the second product comes in is worse than the first one. Mobile phones, TV, fridge, microwave, anything you see, washing machine. When you buy a second, you'd buy a better one, right? And therefore premiumization and upgrade is a fundamental truth in our business.
Okay, so premiumization is a state of mind which is there.
Which also explains that despite the fact that we are the most premium player in the market, even in our internal business, our high end sells more than the low end. Why would that happen?
That's interesting. So volumes are going up. And still the premium end is going up.
Very much.
But the premium is not that high in percentage terms.
It's not, because also fortunately for us, it's not pure premium because there is also a TCO angle which dents the impact of the premium. Right?
So that's looking at three-wheelers. Three-wheelers is interesting. Although a lot of people try to club the two, their dynamics are different. In three-wheeler EVs, and if you take the L3, which is the low-end three-wheeler, and the high-end, you take anything, it's 60% of the market. And in commercial application, virtually the three-wheelers which are non-EV are just getting extinct. And this is without much government support, much noise, small players being. Is that going to happen in two-wheelers in commercial application? Disappearance of non-EVs?
See, for commercial application, even today if you look at, their primary need is a good, reliable product with good range. That's fundamentally what they need, right?
But if you're traveling in a small range, you're covering...
It's perception. You need, agar main atak gaya, because your livelihood depends on that. Right? But it's not 0-1. But there are enough people who own EVs today. And even in the gig economy, there are some situations where the company buys in bulk for their people. But for most other people, for individuals like Swiggy, these individual bikes. So when you buy an individual bike, then your individual buying behavior kicks in. You're not thinking like a B2B. That's my livelihood, that's fine. But
they're attached to them, it's not that they own
because
them.
it is still my money, right? I may use it to deliver something today, but it's still my money. So I'm the aspiration, look at the products, whether in ICE or in EV, they're not buying cheap products.
When you look at, whether it's you look at passenger vehicles or whether you look at two-wheelers especially, segmentation happens more by size, CC capacity, 100cc bikes, 150 bikes. If you have to talk the segmentation language, how is happening in EV two-wheelers?
I think segmentation is market as it matures, it goes through a journey.
But is there any clear segmentation?
There are, so if you take back to your company, X company, Maruti, when in the context of Ambassador and Fiat, when Maruti came in, people just wanted a good car. Nobody said, "Mujhe hatchback chahiye, I want an SUV, I want a crossover, I want a sedan." I just want a good car which is better than what I was driving. Fundamentally, right? As market started maturing, then the use cases started emerging: small car, big car, fast car, etc., etc. When we first started here, people just wanted to buy a good electric scooter. As markets start maturing, we already see a division between a performance scooter where the ETAuto 450 plays and what we call the convenience or a family market where the bulk of the market, 80% of the market is sitting there. Now, this is at this stage. Now, as this matures further, then it's unlikely that all 80% of the market, in let's say in the case of family scooters, just needs one thing. Not possible. 80% population can't just desire one thing, one value prop. So even within that, then segments are emerging. Somebody may value stability more. Somebody may value safety more. Somebody may value storage space more. Somebody may value drive feel more. So these segments are emerging as we go along. It is inevitable. It has to happen.
Okay. But they won't fall in a certain hierarchy like you follow in two-wheelers, 100cc, 150.
Actually, I've always looked at the market, like I said, in two axes, price and need.
Achha.
Right?
So it's a price.
So it's price and need thing, right? So depending on, so certain needs become more pronounced at certain prices, but fundamentally it's those boxes that you look at.
So that's interesting, which is there. Now coming to you talked of commercial application, which is there. Are the laws in the country, because we have state governments also, across the country for commercial application, whether it's for passenger or goods, are they working in unison or there is a lot of confusion?
I won't know because we don't play in that segment actively.
Achha.
Don't have an insight on that.
But that's a commercial application which is there.
We don't have an insight on that. At least I don't have an insight.
Achha. Okay, good, which is there. Now, coming to one of the things which always comes to my mind, I remember when the FAME policy came, they said out of 10,000 crores, 800 crores is used for educating customers or bringing the concept of EV. Like you have mutual funds, you have various things, who try to sell the concept of the product. This mutual fund sahi hai. Today, most of the first time people invest, they don't invest in shares in mutual fund. Somehow EV industry, we never had that thing ki EV sahi hai.
Actually, if I could do one thing differently, if I could do one thing even now.
And even government had a budget. I don't know where the budget went.
So we've had this discussion with the government.
I've never seen a campaign. I mean, I can
So maybe there are other activities happening which I'm not aware of. But
any mass campaign.
At a mass campaign,
mass media.
I think what EV mutual funds Sahiya did to mutual funds, I think there's a need to do something similar in EVs because the questions people have are fairly fundamental. There are questions around battery, resale value, service, charging, where it's not a brand problem, it's an industry problem. So instead of one brand trying to solve it, if the industry can come to, if we could orchestrate a coalition in the industry, it would have been great. But that's a difficult thing to do.
It's not possible?
Honestly, I don't know. But on the other hand, the government can maintain that. I think maybe a little provocative when I say that, but instead of spending money on subsidy, if you put money on EV sahi hai, you probably in the long term.
It's better multiplier impact.
Yeah. See, I think I'm talking about this at this stage where the subsidy is just $5,000. I'm talking about this stage.
But this is also the responsibility. I mean, the government is there, but industry also the responsibility.
For sure. I'm saying.
It becomes like a Lucknow Nawab, pehle aap.
No. See, somebody has to take the lead, right? Let's say the government takes a lead, say there's a pool, and you have to contribute, then we'll find ways to do that.
Sutradhar chahiye.
हाँ, कौन बनेगा? मैं तो नहीं कर सकता ये.
That's the interesting part which is there. Now coming to brand differentiation, one was the product various categories. Like in cars or whichever in two-wheelers, there certain brands stand for certain things. Is the brand differentiation also becoming sharper among the established players?
If it's not, then that brand will die. Right? Consumers don't buy products, they buy brands, right? So if you don't know what a brand stands for, And if you don't, and whatever it stands for, if it's not relevant to you, you can't survive. It's not
So
possible.
brand differentiation is becoming, which is there.
100%. See, the legacy players will draw from the mother brand roots, right? New players are establishing their own position, so it has to happen.
So there was this impression which was there, and then we're talking of the auto ecosystem. One is of the OEMs, what you manufacture as a brand. See, for a new company, I mean, your company is doing very well, but for a startup to create a product, to create a brand is a challenging task. But in auto components of EVs, are there some startups coming, or is the traditional legacy auto NCV players who are still dominating?
To whatever I understand, I think a lot of legacy players still are leading the pack because they've got the most to lose if they don't step up in the EV world. They've got the most to lose because, see, the wave is inevitable. We may argue whether it's 6%, 8%, or it'll take 2 years or 3 years, but the fact that this ship has sailed, it's not coming back. Right? And if you're a forward-looking OEM, if you're not playing this game, then you will be in trouble at some point in time. Right?
Other thing is the regional divide. You know, in auto industry, whether you take two-wheelers, whether you take four-wheelers, passenger vehicles, whether you take commercial vehicles, South would contribute between the range of 22 to 25% of all India. But when we take of electric vehicles, and correct me if my figure is wrong, it somewhere hovers around 38 to 35 to 40. What is this? Why is South accepting better where North and West are lagging behind? Or is it changing?
Actually, it's not surprising at all because, see, anything new, especially related to technology, needs a certain discernment to appreciate what the new thing is, right? And there's a strong correlation between GDP, education, and adoption. South will always adopt a product which has a technology leaning. Any technology change, you pick up any industry will start from the South, probably goes to West and North and then East.
But Gujarat, Maharashtra, that way, West would have done well. Logically, they haven't also done. I mean, they're doing well, but West is not.
It is, I'm saying, so it's not GDP.
So you think GDP?
GDP, education, the correlation between that is where the openness comes in, right? Discernment of new technology, ability to unpeel and make a informed choice comes from there. Which is why you see Kerala is a small market, but highest market share for us is there.
GDP and education.
For sure.
And appreciation for technology. I would say education and it's appreciation of technology.
See, education allows you to evaluate things more objectively and not get intimidated. So, you know, if somebody were to say this new technology will break down, you will try to understand like why would you say that, right? And even when we sell at a shop floor, the person on the other side is able to have a little more objective conversation, right? It's really education. No?
So I'll take a provocative statement. It's a Punjab where the people understand machines, technologies, repairs very well. It's still not a big market for EVs. Why?
Education. I can say that I'm a Punjabi. I have no shame in saying that.
So that's an interesting comment. We have very few people who are able to make bold, clear statements, which is there. Now coming to the entire concept of, looking the road ahead. We may say we have come to 7%, but still the market is large and the government, we have nothing else to bet on. So, people who are in the passenger vehicle industry, if you talk to them, the R&D supply chain, so we are totally confused. CNG will work, hybrid will work, this biofuel will work, petrol will work, diesel will work. Here there is no confusion. So, and if you look at the last 1 year, passenger vehicles have gone from 2.5 to 5%, whereas if you look at two-wheelers, the growth is still very slow. I mean, it used to be double 2.5 times. Now it was 5 and this is 8. The gap is widening, and whereas ideally all the factors which are in two-wheelers. So we're trying to answer the basic question which we did discuss initially. What is required to propel it? I mean, there has to be some fast pace. It can't be that, the old types, used to have players like Arun Lal used to score 1 run and 2 runs. I mean, where we get into that Sehwag mode, or we can talk of the...
See, I think we like to see this from a first principle basis. Now, if I have to look at it dispassionately, almost like an outsider looking into this EV world, I would say what are the systemic problems that today the industry has not solved or are becoming a stumbling block? Credible brands are there, credible products are there. Pricing could be an opportunity, but pricing is not a problem anymore.
Network is also there now, every round virtually.
Network was a problem, network is there. Issues around charging, etc. People perception. It's not like it's killing us. Yeah, you can help. You can help allay those concerns because charging in reality is not as big a problem. So fundamentals of the business, product hai, pricing hai, distribution hai, all those are in place. And therefore, if you were to ask me what could slow this down, I'd say nothing, because what I strongly believe is that you can, it's very difficult to predict the trajectory of growth. You can have an end.
But how do you accelerate that growth? What is the booster required?
It goes back to where we spoke about. EV sahi hai kind of space where today the mainstream consumer has certain questions around these things, like resale value, like quality, like battery, etc. Now, if you don't, the only way to fast track is that to address these concerns proactively. Let's say if you don't do that, over a period of time, they will get solved. It just takes a little more time.
So if I remember going back to Bollywood, there was a Vidya Balan movie, entertainment. Here, if you have to grow the industry, it has to be education.
100%, no question.
So that's the important part. Now coming to, there's a lot of questions which people say, and this is not especially for two-wheelers, the more we get into EVs, the more we are into the tentacles of China. Because whether you say battery and now we have this entire rare earth metals and we talk about materials, we are still not self-sufficient. So a lot of people say, is it the right strategy to get into the, the enemies, you are getting into the enemy, but you are not, cannot make it self-dependent. So coming to the basic question, where are we on the journey of becoming not dependent on a foreign power, that you have your own system, because battery is the real soul, or you can say the real heart of it. So where are we on this journey?
Actually, on this question,
and what's happening on this?
This question,
this is a concern, because last time when this whole issue of rare earth metal came, again is an issue. It started with semiconductor, it starts with battery and sometimes motors, and now we come to rare earth metals, and tomorrow a new point may come up, for all you know.
It could. But reality is that it's not an automotive problem or an EV problem. It's a much larger problem.
Much larger problem.
Much larger problem, right? So it's not. So we are part of a much larger narrative and much larger dynamic that's at play, right? Today we talk about EVs, tomorrow could be something else. So this China dependency is not an EV discussion. It's a geopolitical discussion, which is, I think, much bigger than us, right? And that needs to be solved not at industry level, but at a government to government level, right? So I just say that, like, sure, you can say we have dependency, but I would say argue that many industries have the same dependency, right?
So but there are alternative materials available now. Coming to, you have basically big companies are there. I mean, we are a big two-wheeler market. So to that extent, and we are also educational institutions of excellence. How is the interface of developing technologies, I'm talking of basic technologies, happening between companies, industry bodies, educational institutions, and centers of excellence? Is it being?
I would say not yet, because early days. Right now, a lot of the R&D efforts are really driven by individual companies. Right? I think that ecosystem of this virtuous cycle of education, industry, and then industry bodies chipping in, etc. I think that's not kicked in yet. Like, we work with a few engineering colleges and all that, but it's not orchestrated at an industry level yet. So it's happening more on the initiative of individual companies. But I got to say that I think when it comes to scooters, e-scooters, India is far ahead than any other market in the world. Far ahead.
So that's a great positive sign.
It is a great. Most people don't recognize it.
Achha.
Because see the fact.
So when you say this, what is the demonstrable explanation for that?
See, it is. See, any industry at an industry level that wants to invest in deep R&D, you will never do that if you don't have a deep domestic market. If you don't have deep domestic demand, it is unlikely you will invest in R&D and millions of dollars thinking I'll export something someday. Right? It's consumer goods, it doesn't really happen. Actually, most goods, but consumer certainly doesn't really happen that way, right? So fundamentally, we have a large domestic market, right? Basis of which we also realize that if you really have to wean people away from ICE to electric, subsidies can't do that. You have to be equal or better than the existing solution. Nobody downgrades, right? So if I have to dislodge an ICE scooter, I have to be at the very least equal, and definitely better if you have to have a long play there, right? The only way to do that is R&D, right? Understand consumer need, better products, new use cases that EV enables. There are a lot of use cases that are just not possible in petrol. There are use cases that are just not possible unless the vehicle is connected. And those things, are driving all the innovation.
So if you look at across segments of the auto industry, two-wheelers is one sweet spot where India is emerging as a hub for exports. I mean, look at the numbers Bajaj does, TVS does. To that extent, you say in quality terms, you are second to none for the relevant type of products.
Yes.
So one, India as a brand is known. Then legacy players, you won't have it, but legacy players have a distribution network which exists, which sells sizable volumes. So are we waiting for a big leap in exports anytime?
I think it'll happen. It'll happen because, see, fortunately, India has source credibility for two-wheelers, like Japanese cars or German cars. Similarly, India two-wheeler is a good success story, right? And cuts across geographies, right?
And it'll be in the same type of countries where two-wheelers are sold, or it'll be
It
different?
may not be. I think that's where the gap is, because, for example, Africa maybe isn't ready today for EVs because, firstly, price point. Secondly, Africa is largely a motorbike market, and we
But
spoke
Africa
about
is a big market for two-wheeler exports.
huge market. Latin America is an attractive market. Parts of Europe can be attractive.
Southeast Asia also?
Southeast Asia is a huge market, also very because it's huge, also very competitive. See, also the
How
thing,
is countries like Thailand and Indonesia on the EV journey on two-wheelers? Because they're large two-wheeler markets. I am not aware of that. Or our audience won't be aware of it.
not very strong, but the fact is, it goes back to what we said about government support. Initial stage of EV journey in any country has to be supported by the government. It's only when the governments choose to make it a priority, which they increasingly are, is when you see policies that enable EVs to sort of enter, because they don't have any domestic production there. Southeast Asia is a bigger opportunity because Southeast is a large market. It's a market which is dominated by Japanese. Japanese don't have EVs today. So if EVs pick up, India gains big time.
So if this is the greatest opportunity waiting,
Big time.
so is the industry collaborating in this?
What do I say?
Your silence answers more. Because
No, actually, on a serious note,
what I hear, everything is correct. You're ticking boxes.
It is.
Correct.
I think, see, that while it seemed like I was being cheeky, the point isn't that like we are at loggerheads. It's just that the domestic opportunity is so large and under-penetrated at this point in time. We just focus on getting this right.
That's a big opportunity.
Because if you lose this and get exports, doesn't really.
And government could play a role in this also.
I don't think that's the biggest problem today. I think the government on the other side has to play a role more than us.
They have the other side.
Yeah.
But if they're allowing imports of this thing, then they will allow imports of the two-wheelers is concerned. Now, looking at the road ahead, we are sitting in 2025 and we're doing some projections, and there has to be basis of projections. Government says 30% two-wheelers EV. What is your prediction? Why?
I think it'll be a few percentage points up down. I think it'll be similar. Like I explained earlier, the thing is difficult to predict the trajectory of growth. So I do believe we'll get there, and instead of maybe a more linear growth, you might see a J curve or something similar. But because I'm a logical man, I'm saying logically there is no reason. There's consumer demand, there's product, everything else is there. No? So why would it not grow? Like there's no reason for it.
The only challenge, Ravneet, is if you put 30% and you say it's going to be J curve, then it's like a T20 cricket match with asking rate is going up to 12 runs and over.
See, could be. But I'm saying, but it's not like after 2030 something big will change, and therefore if you don't get there, like you will lose the opportunity. Maybe you lose it by a year, maybe 2 years.
Okay, now I'm coming to a certain round called rapid fire round. And you can dodge the question if you want, but if you answer it will be really good. 2 things which industry is not doing, which you should do to increase EV penetration.
I think a collective education is one. I'd say actually just that.
It's only one. Collective education is one thing which is there. 2 things which the government must do. They may be doing certain things which will hasten EV adoption.
Actually, funnily the same thing again. I think right now what we need is consumer education. That, and if you had asked me a question 1 year earlier, I would have said, just simplify the operations around claims and all that. I think that anyway subsidy is going to win, so that's fine.
And anything from the dealership perspective, because there's a big fear in dealerships. A lot of dealerships depend on after sales business. They say EV is having lesser moving parts and battery being replaced in one go. What are things, how would you dispel that thing in mind, or what is something which you have to
Actually, I don't believe that's a problem, because while there are less moving parts, the vehicles still need service. And very importantly, there is zero leakage here. Nobody goes to a roadside mechanic for EVs. So whatever service happens at the authorized service center. So what you lose by frequency, you gain by service absorption. So our mature dealers, where vehicles have been there for a long time, they are profitable on a standalone basis on service. I don't think it's a challenge.
So 2 things, since most of the legacy dealers are also dealers for EV, most of them which are there, for the legacy brands and even for your brand which is there. two things which they should do differently vis-a-vis ICE engine vehicles? What do you expect them to do?
So I think it's how you sell, because we are still at a concept selling stage for either at a category level, depending on where you are, which city you're talking about, or certainly at a more brand differentiation level, because the parameters of differentiation are different here, right? So I think it's really unlearning and relearning how to sell.
We have these centers of education of excellence, the IITs. What would you expect from them to do? When I go to all these, I'm a professor of practice, they go, sir, we want to do something. So the Twain is like Mark Twain, that East is West never should meet. What would you expect them to do, or what is required to be done to tap their potential? There's so many youngsters, so many projects, grants are there.
I think these things typically falter because there is nobody stitching it together in a more systemic manner. Because given where we are and given even the current strength we have in technology in at least two-wheelers, this needs to go all the way back to education system, right? Whether it's IITs or other institutes as well, where you look at it as a long-term play and have formal programs around that. I must confess, I don't know how much is already happening or not, but it's got to happen there.
It is happening, but somehow it's not orchestrated properly.
It is. So somebody has to stitch it together, right? It's the same thing you're asking about education, why the industry isn't coming together. Somebody has to stitch it together.
Industry is coming together, so you're still competing, but here with the education industry is not competing.
So it's not a
you're
question of
collaborating or co-creating.
So it's not a question of lack of will. It's like who will take the lead here, right?
So if you have a wish list, there's I'm not saying like Kennedy had a wish list that by the end of the decade the man should be on moon. 61, there's nothing available to show that the man would reach on moon in 69. What would be your wish for EV, for two-wheelers? And so the wish has to be a decade later. This is my vision, which is there. If this happens, then...
So I think I would say that doesn't sound like a very grand vision or a grand wish. I think if the industry stays the path and continues investing in the fundamental building blocks of automotive, and because we are talking about EV, which is changing very fast, right? The risk is that at a certain scale you start getting complacent, right? And this is a place where we have to lead the world and not be just a part of the world. And therefore, it's a lot of proactivity. So if you stay the path and stay proactive, I think when it comes to e-two-wheelers, we genuinely have a chance to rule the world, genuinely.
Okay. So we're closing the point where genuinely we have everything going to rule the world.
100%.
Which is there.
100%.
And they say, there's a saying that, will you make history or become part of history? We'll make history.
I think we'll write the book.
We'll write the book.
If we don't get distracted, I think we'll write that book.
So Ravneet, thank you very much. Discussing with you has been interesting, insightful, and also sometimes provocative. And the good part is you've taken the questions head on. So thank you very much, Ravneet, for this discussion.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.